The book actually came out on Monday, and it turns out that my characters are really upset. They feel used by me. So we've worked out a kind of a truce where I've agreed to air their grievances and allow them to set me straight on a few points publicly. Herman the scientist. Let's be empirical, Weiner. Examine the facts, starting with your chapter titles. We lose our love to history. Where will it be recorded? What is not said will be suffered. What effect can art really have? And then the one you dedicated to me, The Atheist of Love. More on that in a second. It's obvious you wanted to write an ambitious novel about sex and death, history and memory, and life in all its ephemeralness. Exactly the kind of book I'd never read. But can we just cut the crap and call this what it is? A futile revenge fantasy, a way for you to get a handle on growing up in the wreckage of free love. What, are you still angry that the Fleetwood Mac generation got 10 times more sex than yours? Because don't tell me you didn't spend your childhood hours poring over those photos of Stevie Nicks on the Rumors cover, that you didn't wonder what dark pleasures were behind those lidded eyes and quaalude smirks, that your curiosity didn't extend to Christy McVie and the possibilities that lay beneath her high English finish. You little shit. You used me for your research project. Calling me the atheist of love, really, Weiner. Fuck you. Alexandra the photographer. Oh, Andrew. Judging by the kind of marriage you assigned to me and your protagonist, Daniel, you seem to see love as some terrible disorder, one that reveals life's darknesses and drives the bewildered lover to seek something greater beyond the turmoil. Not necessarily religious truth, but something like it, perhaps to be found in the shapeliness of great art. The assurance that existence isn't just a matter of accidents, but something that has meaning. Yet did I have to be such a vessel for your tragic outlook? Every other word from my mouth underscoring life's fatality, its sad, gorgeous absurdity. Even the way your hero, my devastated husband, thinks about me. Quote, history records what we do, not how we love. I can taste your love of Tolstoy dripping bittersweetly from these words, Andrew. Surely this is why you made me a Russian Jew and not just a Jew. And don't give me some spiel about me being a conglomeration of past lovers. You know very well which girlfriend I'm based on. And why do you have me struggling with infertility in the book? Cheating, okay. An obsession with Versace, I'll live with it. But infertility, do not work out your problems with all your women on me. And killing me off on page 1, Andrew. What does this say? What does this say? Hannah, the survivor, and then the nun. Mr. Weiner, I do not judge you for what you put me through. In fact, I thank you, for you and I both know that suffering is our only hope. And since I don't want to be anybody, and am in no way attached to my character, I take no offense at your using me to work through what occupies your thinking the most. Love and sex, our inevitable dying, and the search for that which remains forever hidden from us in nature, in events, and in the incitements of our own souls. But I will say this, I'm worried for you, Mr. Weiner. You initially show my character in a good enough light by having me wait in the line to marry a man I've never met. On the surface, the reason you placed me in this situation was clear enough. It was helping another soul to get out of Austria. And the anonymity of it, the selflessness, the submission to historical necessity, you really did put marriage in its proper relation to the cosmic order. If only that were your whole novel, instead of the, well, what else can I call it but the mad journey of the flesh that you insisted I undergo in my marriage to Joseph Peck. I quote the following passage because it's representative. Someone is delighted to hear her name uttered as a sexual cry, to have every odd corner of her body emphasized, to have to tell a man who expresses a wish to kiss her anus that he is sweet like a dog. Someone likes how that man finds his way into her without his eyes, likes how the contours of his body repay her scrutiny, the unconscionably wide back, the gleaming white throat that still looks to be in the throes of childhood. Someone is even attracted to the slightly sour smell of his breath, a sign that he is alive, digesting, though this makes her hurt for him, makes her wish she could hold on to him. It is painful to think as she catches another glimpse of the wash basin opposite the bed, and its tiny mirror whose framed glass fills with their bodies each night, that their lives will be no more permanent than a flash of skin in a darkened room. All of her effort to get beyond time, it feels like a sin to her now. Let limits into your heart, she tells herself. What did you ever have to say about eternity when you did not yet know its opposite? A shoulder sweep beneath a linen shirt, the sound of a belt coming off, the mineral richness of a man's mouth. The truth is, you want to engrave yourself making love to him on that mirror's glass. You want it to be the room's newest and final painting, a record of a love that happened once. I ask you, Mr. Weiner, if a writer is, as the great poet said, a secretary of the invisible, if the writer watches what happens to her own characters, what kind of pleasure did it give you to watch a woman of the spirit being forced to reckon with the body, her own and a man's? Was it a similar pleasure as watching a Jew become a Christian? The embodiment of the divine, are you really that susceptible to man's endlessly counterproductive hunger to witness it? And are you under the illusion that this novel is such an embodiment? And finally, Daniel Lichtman, the art critic. Hello, me. We both know that you might have made me your hero, your stand-in, your better or worse self. We know that you might have made me an artist, since that's what you were. After you'd left the art world for the literary life, you never could let go of trying to imagine the perfect body of work, the show that would somehow be a summation of everything you'd ever wanted to say as an artist. You're lucky that you were a novelist when the vision finally came to you. That vision of couples flying around a gallery, holding hands as if ascending. And therefore, you could mount that show in your novel, so to speak. I could accuse you of playing it safe, of having your cake and eating it too, but seeing what you put me through, it would only come off as the false mudslinging of a very embittered protagonist. And I can understand how making me an art critic gave you much needed critical distance from art in the art world and your own history with respect to both. In order to write well about those things, you knew you needed to put at least 2 removes between them and you. Still, something came out in my story, the impotence of the critic as opposed to the artist, and I wonder, Andrew, if it frightened you. If you felt, as you wrote about me and my envy of the great contemporary artist, whose final achievement ceaselessly mystifies me and probably takes my woman from me, I wonder if you felt that you were looking in the mirror and seeing your own impotence reflected back at you. It's there in the opening lines of chapter 4, isn't it? Listen carefully. He was sorry about everything except the fucking. This is what Daniel longed to say to Alexandra at her funeral as he sat sweltering in the tiny queen's temple, his gaze fixed on her casket. Somewhere a cantor was delivering an account of the Psalms, and the droning lament, acting in harmony with the complaint of an air conditioner, seemed to consecrate the veil of coitus that trembled before his eyes. Alexandra was growing paler to him by the hour, but their fucking would not fade. Wedged between her weeping father and his own mother, he had the panicky urge to cry out to her. He nearly did bellow at the casket, the muscles in his calves tensed, ready to launch him to his feet. But in the end, he was prevented from doing so by memories of their early unrestrained couplings, which washed over him afresh in successive waves, until by degrees he grew faint and he found it necessary to grip the sticky lip of the pew with both hands. Still, he had the sensation of being swept off by the unvanquishable thought that she, who had inhabited the ritually cleansed remains resting mere steps from where he sat, had chosen for a brief span of time to merge her flesh and her few ticks of time with his. As his vision penetrated backward through those initial years of their marriage, when they had so eagerly sought pregnancy and permanence, he could simply not believe that the body in that plain pine box had once hungered and hungered and hungered for him. All that blessed fucking. It had been their little toying with eternity. Yet even as the run of his thoughts continued along these lines, so too did his mind begin to flash with memories of the two of them viewing Benjamin Wynn's final show, until the frail levee separating these parallel mental streams gave way, and the one line of thinking bled into the other, and he could no longer distinguish between coming together with her on a bed and intersecting with her in the gallery, between the way she looked at him whenever they made love and the way their eyes met calamitously over Benjamin Wynn's last sculptures. What he needed to know, more than anything else, was whether Benjamin Wynn had been her lover by then. Had she already let Wynn fuck her? Well, Andrew, I shouldn't come across as so ungrateful, since you did give me the starring role. And to use your own words from the book, a thought you attribute to me, actually. The world had its own story, and it was not ours. We helped it along. With our lives, we paid to be players. But rarely were we granted our dreams of speaking parts, and most of us never rose above anonymity. You know what, Andrew? Fuck that, and fuck you. Thank you.